Welcome to Limitless and Unfiltered. I am Maria DeCarmo, and this is my co-host, Jenny Kramer. This is the space where we get real, raw, and unfiltered about life, business, and everything in between. Because let's be honest, navigating ambition, relationships, and personal growth isn't always easy, but it is worth it. Here, we challenge the norms, break through limits, and have the conversations no one else is having without the fluff, without the filters. So, if you're ready to step into your power, own your story, and build a life that's truly yours, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in because together we are limitless and unfiltered. All right, everyone. So thank you for tuning in. I can't believe this is episode 3. That's crazy. I probably will forget what episode we're on after this one, but I know that today is 3. So thank you. Thank you for tuning in. We're so excited. Today's topic might feel a little bit heavy because it's a situation or let's say a circumstance that we've lived through that we want to share and shed light on. Mostly because there's still taboo around this topic and we want to break that stigma. We want to bring a safe space for you so that you can feel connected to us and feel connected to a community that, although goes through these things, doesn't necessarily talk about it, and we want to make it normalized. We want to make it front stage and center so that you don't have to go through this feeling alone like many of us did. So we're going to talk about all things postpartum, all things feelings postpartum, and I'm going to try and contain my tears on this one, but if we cry, we cry. So I'm going to let Jenny take the stage on this one and start us off and share with us her journey, and we'll give you some tips and things that have helped us so that hopefully it helps you.
Yeah, so I would say nobody really sets you up to head home with a newborn baby. You stay one night and then, they have you on your merry way back home and you get home and you're like, what the fuckery am I doing? You literally don't know if you're coming or going when you get home because you just have this tiny little human in your arms, and all you know is that if they start to cry, they either peed or shit their pants, they need to eat, or they're full of gas. So It's like one of 3 things. And for me, it was more difficult for me than my husband because I didn't really grow up around small children. I'm an only child. I'm the eldest grandchild. So there's like 10 years between me and my next
Oh, wow.
first cousin. And so I never really grew up around babies. So I didn't really know much. So like I've mentioned before, I felt like I was pretty naive with the whole being pregnant and the birthing and even still coming home with a newborn baby. So yeah, coming home, it was like, I felt like I was on house arrest. You couldn't leave the child unattended, of course, like even to go to the washroom. My husband's like, you take him to the washroom with you if you're by yourself. Like, I was like, what? I take him to the washroom with me. Like, all these things, but not really being involved with small children beforehand. It was difficult because mentally I was like kind of down and out on myself because I was like, why does this seem so difficult for me? I couldn't comprehend it. And as the days went on, I actually started to get really angry at home. I think it was like day 5 or 6, and I was like at home trying to pump. That wasn't working.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't able to breastfeed. I was like maybe getting an ounce of milk, breast milk a day. And so here I am getting down and out about that, but pacing back and forth because I'm like angry. I'm angry that like nobody told me how hard this was going to be. Nobody told me, the things that I wish I had known. And the more I thought about it, Maria, the more I became like really upset and angry. And then the anxiety started to flow in. Like, I'm like, oh my God, this is my life. I'm going to be up every 2 hours. I'm going to be feeding a baby every 2 hours. I literally thought I was a hamster in a wheel. And the more and more I dwelled on it, the more angry I got. And then the more anxiety started to come over me. And I remember my mother-in-law, because she was over a lot. God bless her, because she was amazing. But I'd be like, it's going to get better, right? It's going to get better. And I kept on like looking for like reassurance from her because she had 2 boys. She's like, yes, of course it's going to get better. And I would just sit there and I would literally feel like the world was coming to an end. Like I truly thought, I'm like, oh my God, my life is coming to an end. And
life is over.
Like, I'm like stuck in my house with my husband, with this baby, and like leaving the house. Are you kidding me? No way. I wasn't leaving the house. Like, it was way too much to do in order to leave the house, right?
So were you like did you see leaving the house as like something that was just there was too much around the doing of leaving and like having to manage all that, or did you have like anxiety of like seeing people and having them touch your baby like all of the things?
So for me, it was more so like leaving the house and like the anxiety of even putting him in the car seat because I'm like, what if I don't do it properly? What if I drop him? You know, even going up and down our steps, I was like paranoid, right? I was never overbearing with like other people holding him. I was very cautious of who I had come over, you know, making sure people wash their hands because he was born in November, which is, you know, high flu season. Everybody was getting sick. So I was very particular with, you know, who we kind of meshed with at the time. And
As you
I was
should.
extremely okay with verbalizing that because, you know, you have to advocate for yourself and your family, right?
Mhm.
And everybody was super understanding, which was great. Like nobody was ever offended.
Oh,
Everybody
good.
understood. Yeah. But it was more so the anxiety of like getting him in the car seat, getting in the car, and then like I remember one time driving to Sherway Gardens and he's in the back seat, of course, and he's like bawling his eyes out. And I'm like, oh my God,
Mm.
is he choking? Is he suffocating? And I'm like pulling over on the side of the road because I'm like, oh my God, are you okay?
Mhm.
So it was just instances like that really got to me.
Mhm.
It was challenging. It was really challenging. And nobody really said, you know, hey, this is probably going to happen. So, like, be aware,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Because
it's
nobody wants to
crazy.
talk about it.
Nope. No, everyone wants to make motherhood and postpartum seem like, you just go on your jolly merry old way and that nothing affects you. And meanwhile, like statistics and science says that the effects of postpartum can last over 2 years.
Yeah,
And
it's
like
wild.
that's yeah, when I read that because well my experience and I'll share that in a bit, but when I read that I was like, why is nobody talking about this? And yes, there are psychologists and like different podcasts, but it regular day to day, people are afraid to say these things. And I think our family's generation, like our mothers and our grandmothers, like that it was just not a thing for them. They did not talk about it. Like if you complained about motherhood or complained about how you were feeling in the trenches after postpartum, it was almost like you were undeserving of being a mom. And so for them, it was more so let's just be quiet, put on a smile, and pretend everything is good. And they suffered as well. They just had no outlet to do so.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that I've talked about because it was one thing I'm very like straight up and forward. I don't sugarcoat anything. So when people are like, how are you doing? I would be like, I'm not doing well. It's hard. I would say this is the hardest thing I've ever had to overcome.
I
I had,
remember our conversation.
yeah, I like anybody that knows me that's listening to this, anybody that spoke to me after having the baby, like, you know, like the first words that came out of my mouth that this was fucking hard.
Yep.
And I had some really awful days and awful days for a long while to the extent where I had to speak to my doctor about it and had to look at other interventions in order to help me cope and help me get through the difficult times. And for me, it's like it's okay to ask for help, and people need to know that it's okay. But it's also okay to not be okay.
100%. Oh my gosh. 100%.
Yeah. And I would say, like, a lot of people think I'm crazy. A lot of my patients looked at me like I had seven heads. I went back to work at 6 weeks. And like I said, I went back because part of me had to go back in the sense of when you own a business,
You have to show up.
that you have to show up exactly. But it also was like it helped me heal faster because, you know, I was okay getting in my car and driving to work because it was like going from home to home.
Yeah, it's
So it was
familiar
this,
to you.
yeah, it was familiar. It was a sense of security. Like everybody that I work with is like my second family. You know, like I was able to go there and feel like I was in a safe space. And I would tell you, all my patients, because they're people who will only see me and I've built these great relationships with, were so excited to see me. And every single one would be like, how are you doing? And I told every single one, it was fucking hard and that it's been a struggle. And the amount of women patients who actually said, I know. And I'm just like, but why doesn't anybody talk about
Yeah,
it?
I know. I know. And you know what's crazy is that here in Canada, you're people probably thought, oh, you're nuts for going to work so like early, right? Like early on after you gave birth. But if you look at like places like the States, like that's the norm.
The
I
norm.
think what is it, like 12 weeks that they go back to work or something? Like they don't get a year. They don't get 18 months, right? Which in all honesty, I feel like it depends on your personality and what you want in your life, and how you handle things. Some people need and crave to go back to work. They need it. Some women need it. And like you
Yeah.
said, healing space for you. Now talk to me about why you felt like it was a healing space. Because I know the answer because I'm very much like you, but for those listening, why did you feel like going back gave you a sense of healing?
So for me, it's just the one thing. It was my purpose. Like, obviously, my one purpose is like now being a mom, and I love it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But, at the time being a business owner and it being my office, it was my purpose to be there to take care of the people that I worked with, but also to take care of my patients, right? When I was at home and I'd be like rocking him at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd be like, oh my God, is this my life? Like, I've lost myself. Like, I was like this, powerhouse, independent person, entrepreneur, doing a million things a day,
Hmm.
getting all the shit done. And now I'm like lucky if I got a shower.
Oh God, let's talk about that.
So, for me it was like it gave me normalcy back.
Hmm.
Even if it was just for 4 hours, I felt normal and I felt myself for 4 hours. And it was such a blessing, and it's so crazy to think that a lot of people take that for granted. And it really shined light on, how lucky I was to be in that place at that time. Yeah.
Absolutely. So talk to me about like what were you feeling? What did you go through? Like if someone were to say, we'll get into like if you want to, whether what your doctor diagnosed and how they helped you, if they helped you. But before that, like before you seeked help, what were you feeling? And you talked about the anxiety, you talked about like anger, because postpartum anger, like rage, it's actually called rage, is so normal. And I didn't know any of that until experiencing it. But what did you feel like? What were you like, okay, I need to go and seek help? Like, what was that point for you?
I had like internal anger because my husband is amazing. He is so hands on, even still to this day. Like, I do during the week, the nighttime feeds, and he does the weekends. If I needed to sleep, he was there. But it was just anger at the beginning towards him. And like to this day, I'm like, why was I angry to him? Like he didn't do anything to me. Like he was great, he was supportive. But it was like, I think for me, I felt like my life changed so drastically, whereas his stayed like
The same.
the same. Even though, like, in hindsight, it really didn't stay the same, but in the time being, like, I was ripped apart. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't
Mhm.
sit down. I was going to the washroom and, like, couldn't go to the washroom. And then, you're bleeding and you've got fucking hemorrhoids and you've got all this bullshit going on,
Yup.
and you're trying to take care of this baby every 2 hours, trying to breastfeed, trying to pump, changing shitty diapers. Like, as soon as you get the baby to sleep, the baby is waking up again because it's time to feed again. I would see him like sleeping peacefully. And yes, it's because he had to go to work, but I'm like, fucking hell. Like, seriously? And I just had a minute. So there was like a little bit of anger, but it wasn't like I wouldn't say I was angry at him. It was just like this uncontrollable anger
Yep.
towards the situation.
Yep. And we have to remind ourselves, and for new moms, if you're haven't been through this process and you haven't given birth yet, know that after you give birth, scientifically there are so many changes and fluctuations with our hormones. And yes, we can be told that. It's one thing to be told that and reading that. It's another thing to experience it. And
Yeah.
like there are going to be moments where there are uncontrollable emotions that you're like, what is it makes you question your sanity. Like it does. Like it makes you question every single fiber of like what is going on in my head.
I remember like staring at the wall while I was rocking AJ to sleep, and I would just like start bawling my eyes out. And I'm
Hmm.
like, why am I crying? But I'm crying.
How crazy is that?
It was just really crazy. And like, I'm not a crier. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a tough girl, like
Hmm.
I don't let things really get to me in the
Hmm.
sense of like crying.
Yeah.
So when that sense of emotion came over me, I was like, what the hell is going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and going back, like seeing my husband go to the gym, I'm like, fuck, like I just want to get my body back. Like
Mm-hmm.
every day, multiple times a day, I'd look in the mirror and I'd be like, what has happened to me, right? I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even want to look. I would like walk by and I'd be like, oh God, I just need to get back to the gym. I need to get back to feeling me. I can tell you right now, there was like one point in all of this where like I got my period. I think I got my period like, gosh, 6 weeks after.
Get out of here.
Only because I wasn't able to breastfeed, right?
Okay. Okay. Fair.
But I've never been so happy to get my period. Because I knew in the back of my head, getting my period was going to help regulate my hormones faster.
Yep.
And I would be getting closer to being my normal self. So that was
Definitely.
definitely
Like a woo moment.
yeah, it was definitely a woohoo moment.
Yeah. So when did you decide, okay, I need to go? I need to go. Well, first of all, before you decided you needed to go get help, what did you do prior to reaching that point?
I had a really supportive family. So my mom, my mother-in-law, my husband, some of my close friends. So I was able to really like talk to them like I was in therapy, which was really great. And then I decided to have a chat with my doctor, who's absolutely amazing. I know there's a lot of doctors out there who are like, no, if you're okay, I'm not going to send you for these tests or prescribe this. Whereas, like, if I give her a good explanation, she's great at advocating for her
Good.
patients, which is lovely. So I just had a chat with her and she kind of questioned me. She did the whole test run where they interview you and ask you some questions, and she diagnosed me with postpartum anxiety,
Gotcha.
not depression, anxiety. She said it's so normal.
Mm-hmm.
She
It
says,
is.
yeah, majority of women experience either the anxiety, the depression, some end up with both. And it's like a small percentage of individuals that don't have it at all. So I was like, okay. So she gave me a choice about certain things that I could intervene and help with it. So we did go on a short-term medication, which helped. And as soon as I started to feel better, I just let it go, and everything has been great since.
Good.
Yes.
It's a hormonal imbalance that we're going through, like,
Yes.
and that's why I'm so glad you said it's okay, one, to be not okay, and it's okay to get help, because I feel like a lot of women that go through postpartum and are experiencing all of these things, they're like, well, I don't want to go to my doctor because I don't want to be labeled as XYZ. When in reality, we need to let go of all those labels and actually have the conversation that this is normal, and what your doctor said to you is so true, because most women experience what we experience, but very few women talk about it.
They don't. There was a woman that like, and I advocated myself to get this. So it's with after you have the baby, they have a nurse come to the house just so that they can like see the baby's room, where you live. And it was a choice that I made to make sure that I'm doing everything correctly, right? I wanted to make sure because like I mentioned, I had never really been around babies before. So had a lovely nurse come to the house, and she just interviewed me. We chatted about, bottle feeding, pumping, getting the baby ready for bed, baths, all of that. And, you know, she was like, you're totally fine. Because they come in to like make sure that like once you're done, you're good. She's like, I don't see any problems, any issues. Like you're doing everything great. You're good. She's like, I've seen a lot of, and I've heard a lot of crazy stuff.
Hmm.
And the craziest, like when she told me, I was like, what? Like people who do not talk about it or have people to talk about it do crazy things. They don't even know they're doing crazy things.
Hmm.
And she did mention a crazy story. I don't know if I should say it, but
I mean, there's no name, so
there's no names.
yeah.
But she did say like a crazy story. She goes, women do get so distressed that they don't know what to do. And they may think that they're doing something correctly, but they're not. And there was an instance where like someone put a baby in the oven.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
My goodness.
And this is why it's so important for women to really talk about their feelings and what they're
Hmm.
going through, because these things can happen. And I
Hmm.
did not realize that myself, but hearing it from like a medical professional, I was like, holy hell. Like, how could anybody do that? There was like something on the news the other day that someone left a baby on a doorstep and left a note saying, I can't take care of this baby.
Oh my goodness, that's so heartbreaking. That's so
Yeah.
heartbreaking. Yeah.
And it happens, but it happens because people are scared to really say what they're going through.
Yeah,
So
and
it's
it's
okay to not be okay.
yeah, I think that's the toughest part of postpartum is realizing that it's not just that, and I heard it during my journey, like, oh, no, it's just normal to feel sad. Like
No.
stop diminishing what goes on with women after they give birth because it's not just feeling sad. You can't just don't be sad. You can't just do that. Like this is sometimes very uncontrollable emotions and feelings where and thoughts that there's just no control. And to tell a woman when they're opening up like it's okay, we all went through it. It's just sadness. That is so devaluing what that woman is going through. And then
Yeah.
it makes them feel like, okay, well then I can't speak about this and I should just like something's wrong with me. And nothing is wrong with you if you feel this way postpartum. Like nothing.
Right. I would just say it's okay to not be okay
Mhm.
and to talk about it. And don't be afraid to talk about it, because
Exactly.
talking it out is therapy and it helps you heal.
100%.
Let's jump into hearing a little bit about you and your postpartum experiences with Nico and Veronica.
Of
I'd
course.
love to hear your feedback on your feelings and emotions that you experienced.
Absolutely. I would like to start this off by saying that every pregnancy and postpartum is different. And just because you already had one doesn't mean that your next one and future, if you have more than two kids, are going to be easier or better. Like, this is not a situation where the it gets better phrase applies. It's not, because every single postpartum will be different. It really depends on the health of your mental health before giving birth to your baby, what could happen after. So there's a lot of factors I think that play a role in how we feel after pregnancy or after giving birth. And at the end of the day, every single one of them is going to be a unique experience. And so I want to start by saying that because my journey was where my first one, I suffered a lot postpartum. And then after my second birth, I proactively did so many things to prepare myself for postpartum because I had already been through it that it made my second experience easier in a sense. But that's not to say that I didn't experience it, but that's only because I proactively did things to set myself up to like a better experience. So with my daughter, she was born in 2020, like I said. When she came out, I was just like kind of in a state of like shock, right? It's your first baby. Like they come in the hospital to check on them and like do all the things, and you're just like in awe of what is in your hand. And I remember getting home and everything felt so isolating from the beginning with Veronica because of the situation of the world. There was nobody on the streets, like everybody was home. So even the drive back from the hospital to the house, it was so eerie. Like there was no one out. And so from the get-go, it felt isolating. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay, like this is like the new norm. We didn't know what was going on with the world. So we get home and the experience that I had with my like inner circle, because my inner circle was my family and I was not going to stop seeing my family. I'll be blunt about that. When they came over to see my daughter for the first time, the pictures that I have of them interacting with her are all like really masked up. Everybody didn't know what was going on. And it's sad. It's a sad memory to see that because everyone was just so afraid of everything. And I wasn't the one to ask them to do that. That was all them because I was okay with them not. From the get-go, it was very isolating. It felt like it was just me, my husband, my daughter, and my dog essentially, and everybody else was stranger. And so when people are over and like getting to meet your baby, everything is great and like you're talking and all this stuff, and then when they leave, that's when I started to realize like what is going on with myself. Similar to you, I had a really tough time breastfeeding Veronica. Really, really tough time. Physically, without getting into too much detail, like it's almost like my chest was not made for breastfeeding. And so I had to get certain things to help her like latch on and that was so painful. And then, I tried to pump and pumping is painful and they don't tell you that. They're just like, oh, pumping's so easy. You just pump and like, fill a bottle. Well, it's easy if you have a production of milk, but when you don't, like it's very painful. And I went through that was like, I guess, my first hit was realizing, oh my God, I need help for producing like milk production. So I wanted to breastfeed. I really, really wanted to breastfeed, or at least get breast milk for my baby. And so I went to the doctor and I said, I'm having a really tough time. And at the time, obviously, I was formula feeding her because I was not producing. And so she put me on medication to produce breast milk. And so I went on it, and then I was overproducing. So then it was another challenge. It was like, why is my body not regulating? Like, what is going on? From the get-go, I felt like something is wrong with me. And we fixed all of that, like really got finally to a place where I was producing enough. I was able to feed her, all the things. But I would go into the shower when I could go into the shower, and I would just stand there with the water coming down and just bawl my eyes out. And it was like an eerie silent cry. I felt like I had no emotion. It would just come out. And
Yeah.
I would stand there and I'd be like, well, like why? Like, why am I feeling this way? And then I had thoughts while I was in the showers of just standing there. Like Juan says, he would walk in and he would look at me and he would be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just standing here." And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "I've been here staring at you for like 3 minutes. You haven't moved. You're just standing under the water." And I'm like, "I don't even know how long I've been in here." Like, because I just completely dissociated and would go to pretty dark places. Like, I love my daughter so, so much, but I would go to a place where it was like, why did I even have her? I can't.
I know. I know. I
Mhm.
know.
Woo!
Because yeah, it's crazy.
Mhm.
It's very wild.
Mhm. And it was tough because like I had seen like mental health issues prior with like family members, but I'd never experienced it myself, or at least I never thought I experienced it myself. And so in a stage of life where you're supposed to be the happiest, right? Like it's such a blessing to be a mom, and it's such a blessing to have a baby, and like this little tiny thing depends on you for everything. To go through these emotions, you're like, why? Like, what's wrong with me? And when you don't talk about it, it gets worse because that's all you think about is something is wrong with me. And
Yep.
nothing is wrong with you. It's just you're going through a lot of shit. You're going through a lot of
Hormones.
changes, hormones, all the things. And I, fast forward a couple of months in, well, like 2 months in, 3 months in, when I realized like something is off, I realized that it was almost like I was going through this phase of the old Maria died and I was a new Maria.
Yeah.
And it's tough to explain that because the old Maria was very much like you, like go getter. Like I was able to do whatever I wanted when I wanted. If I wanted to pick up extra shifts and book more clients in, I would book more clients in. If I wanted to go to a restaurant, I'd go to a restaurant. If I wanted to fly and go to vacation, I could do that too. Like it was all of that and so many goals and so many aspirations and so many accolades and things that I accomplished. And then now my sole purpose is this child. And it was like an ego death there, but a new rebirthing of a person here,
I like
right?
that ego death.
Yeah, that's part of the woo woo. We'll talk about that later. Yeah. But yeah, it was literally an ego death. It was like all that was me before and my personality was shattering. And I couldn't understand why. And now, we're 5 years after that experience, but now I totally understand that it wasn't that I was fully dying. It was the independent person was dying to add on new people to her life that were going to essentially reshape the person that you become. And you and I are in completely different stages of motherhood, and I can tell you that it takes time, but you realize why you went through all of what you went through. And in that same breath, I do want to say that the only reason that I now realize that is because I spoke about it and asked for help. Now, how did that come about with Veronica? Because I had really like I was sharing pictures of her, and I was sharing pictures with my family, and I was sharing pictures of motherhood and like how great I was. My body did bounce back with her very quickly. I don't know how that happened, to be honest with you, but it did. I was in like pre-pregnancy clothes, maybe 2 months in. Like it was wild, but I still didn't feel like myself. I would look at the mirror the same and I would be like, that is not my body. And I don't care how much weight I've lost. I'm like, that's not me. Like that is just not who I identified with before. It didn't feel like my body. It literally felt like I was a completely different person. So like you, I would not look at myself in the mirror. I
Yeah.
was like, nope, I can't. I couldn't. And with that, my brother was over once and he was like, finally, like things were a little bit settled in our family, and they were over more often to see the baby. And I think she was like sleeping in the bassinet, and I was cooking dinner, and I was like high energy and all this stuff. And he said to me, he's like, sit down. And I was like, okay. So I sat down and we're only a year apart. And I sat down and he said, are you okay? And I said, yeah, of course. And he looked at me and he grabbed my hand and he was like, I'm going to ask again. He's like, are you okay? And it was like, I knew what he was telling me. And it was like, it hit me like a freight train. And I stared at him and I said, I'm not okay. And he was like, I know. And he was like, and you need to know that we're here. And like, you know, lean on us as your support system. And that was the cracking point for me in my first postpartum journey, where I was like, I need to accept the fact that I'm not okay and that it's okay to not be okay. And luckily I had, you know, that support system in my family members, and it took, you know, one person to identify what was going on and really tell me to my face, like, you need to come to terms with that. And that's hard. So if you are someone that is a support system for someone else, I highly encourage you to have those tough conversations if you notice that your loved one is putting up a front. Because I was putting up a front. I was pretending like everything was good and all that, but one person saw right through that and had the courage to say, it's okay. Like, I'm here and I know. And so from there I went to the doctor. I talked about what I was feeling, and she at the time said, like, I don't think that you need any help for medication. She was like, but if you want to, she was like, I will put you on it. And I said to her, I was like, you know, I'm because of my history with how I react to medications, I was like, I'm a little scared of like going on anything. Let me try different options. So speak therapy, talk therapy. I tried, you know, meditation practices, which really, really helped. Breath work, EFT tapping, journaling. So literally all of the things that I could do on my own, I brought into my like space. And because we were in the middle of a pandemic, like I had all the time in the world to do this. It was me and the baby and the time, right? And so like you, I felt a little bit of anger, or I don't know if it's anger or like resentment that we build up towards our partner, and not in like, I hate you kind of way, but I would be up in the middle of the night feeding this baby and I would look over and he was sound asleep, snoring away. And I would look and why does a woman's life change so much and a man's life, and he's hands-on as well. Like he is a phenomenal father, but like a man's life is like, you know, pretty much untouched about this. They don't have the hormonal changes. They don't have the body changes. They don't go through all of the physical stuff that we go through at the end of it. They don't, for the most part, stay up in the middle of the night for the baby because they also have to work. And I get that. Like, I understand that. But still part of me was like, why is this such a difference? You know, like, why are you peacefully sleeping? And then the next day it would fucking piss me off if he would wake up and be like, oh, I'm so tired. Such a terrible sleep. And I'm like, are you I would
Shut
twitch.
your mouth, sir.
Yeah, I would twitch. I'd be like, "Are you fucked? What are you talking about?" I'm like, "I was up all night. What did you do?" I'm like, "Because every time I was up, you were snoring."
That's so
Right?
funny.
But it's like a rage that's I mean it's actually science rage, but it was uncontrollable. I would literally just stare at him. I got to the point where when he would say something, I would be like, I'm just gonna stare at you. I'm like, because I
Oh.
have nothing nice to say.
What type of mat leave did you take?
With Veronica, I was forced to take a few months because we were shut down. Everything was shut down. And then when dental reopened here, what did we reopen? Like 3 months later, 4 months
June.
later? Yeah. So it wasn't long after March, April, May, June. Yeah, 3 months later, I had the option to go back, but I felt like I wasn't ready yet. And then June, July, like probably in August, September. So she was like 6 months when I decided, okay, I'm going to go back 1 day a week. And I think I started with 2 days a week. Yeah, I went 2 days a week and I had the support of like my mom and my mother-in-law who helped out. But I went back similar to you because I wanted part of my identity to come back. I was like, this is me. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I love my patients. My patients love me. And there were certain things that happened in the care of my patients that I was like, selfishly, I was like, nobody takes care of my patients like I do, right? And that connection and bond. So I went back when she was 6 months, and being a month back, I realized that's not what I wanted. And it's crazy because I felt like that was what I needed. It took a lot of work to get out of that phase of fogginess where I didn't know like who I was, because again, like I felt like I was a completely different person. Like I'm like I don't really know who this identity is. Like I don't know what I'm building because I feel like the only thing that I have is my baby, and I felt like part of my love for my career was dying, which wasn't true. It was just how I was feeling because I was so conflicted in like where I wanted to be. And if you don't have the option of what to choose there, like I feel for you. But if you do have the option, like really zone in on like who you are and what you truly want and own it. right? Because I said that I wanted to go back to work, so I did. And then I realized that that's not what I wanted to do, and I owned both of that. You're allowed to change, right? Like you're
Totally.
allowed to change your mind. So with her, it was tough. I had a lot of feelings at first of like guilt, because there was a lot of guilt tripping and like from people who love me, but it was like, oh, what do you mean you can't breastfeed? Like, drink more water. Or like, are you eating healthy? What was the other thing that I got? Like, why don't you make like oat water and drink oat water? I did all of that. I did all of the things that people were suggesting, and it was just like a constant pressure of why are you not breastfeeding? And I'm like, apart from all the stupid shit that we go through
Yeah.
postpartum, don't tell a mom that's having struggles like why aren't you doing more? Trust me, as a mom with a baby, a newborn in your arms, you're doing everything that you can
Keep it
to feed
alive.
this child. Yeah, it's not that we don't want to. We're not sitting there going, okay, well, I guess I'm not doing it. No,
Yeah,
like we try everything, right? So give the support to a mom. Don't fucking shame her for
for
not
sure.
being able to do more, essentially.
And your husband, was he able to take a pat leave?
No, at the job path didn't allow for us to have that luxury, and so he had to stay on work. But he's worked from home since the pandemic.
Okay.
So yeah, so he was home, and that was part of like why I decided to go back to work because I'm like, okay, well, at least I know that yes, he's on calls and whatever, but if he hears the baby cry and needs to, he can just go downstairs, right? And so that gave me kind of peace of mind to be the one that to leave the home and go to my job because he was home all the time, and he's been home ever since. So that's definitely been a blessing for us for sure. But yeah, it was a tough road with her. There was moments in my journey with her where I felt like I wasn't connecting with the baby. And I felt so much guilt around that because this is what I wanted. I wanted a baby. I now have a baby. And I would look down at her and, all the things you read and like older people telling you, like, when you breastfeed, it's such a beautiful connection that you can just feel it. And in my head, I'm like, I don't feel shit when I breastfeed. I'm going to be blunt about this. It's not that I don't enjoy breastfeeding. I just don't care. It's not, I'm going to be fully honest here. I don't feel a connection to my child when I breastfeed. And I know that can sound cold, but I don't feel anything. I know that I'm giving the child nutrition and I know that this is something that I'm choosing to do, but I don't have this magical like, "Oh my God, I'm breastfeeding my child." Like I didn't feel that. And maybe it was too hyped up for me,
Yeah,
like from
it's
the things.
okay. You're allowed. You're allowed
Yeah.
to feel how you want to feel.
Yeah, I did not feel that. You know where I felt connected with my child? Making them smile. Like when they would smile back at me or like, caressing them. To me, I'm such a touchy-feely person, so, caressing their head or like touching their little toes and their hands and like just when I would look at my child and realize like the magic of what had been created, that's when I felt connected. It wasn't the actual act of breastfeeding. Like that wasn't it for me. And I think it's romanticized a lot. Like breastfeeding is such a connection to your child, and it's just like, what about moms that can't, that have tried everything and that can't breastfeed? Now you're telling them that they don't have a connection with their child. I don't believe that.
No, I'm with you on that for sure. And everybody has like a different way of connecting with their
Hmm.
child, right? Like, same for me. I wasn't able to breastfeed, so I wasn't able to have that type of connection.
Hmm.
But my connection with him was in different ways. Like when he woke up in the morning, like he would just grab
Yeah.
onto me and he like hugs me and he like plays with my hair at the back of my neck, like, touches my
Little
face. Like,
fingers.
yes, like that's just like our thing every morning. Like we just hug and he just lies on me.
I
And that's
love
my
that.
connection, right?
Yeah.
So it's like all specific to who you are and who they are too, right? Because they have their own little personalities too.
Yes, they do. They do. They definitely do. So with going through that with Veronica, I definitely prepared myself for the second time around. I was like, okay, I know how hard that was. And I think part of me, truthfully, if I'm honest with you, Jenny, I think part of me has blurred some of that postpartum depression that I was going through, because it was definitely depression, because I don't want to experience that. I didn't want to like own it. And I know this is something that I have to like work on and like really feel through, but I think that I've like blocked some of those experiences out because it was so difficult. It was so hard. And for me, I was one of the first people in my like close circle of friends to have a baby. I had other friends that had had babies before, but like my immediate circle, it was me. So going through that experience alone and like also seeing the death of friendships happening, air quote death, not actual death, like a drifting away from friendships because we were on the same stage and they just didn't get it, and that's hard too. So there's so much that is involved in postpartum issues, not just like what moms are feeling and what moms are going through and the hormonal changes and the science behind all of that, but there's also the inner circle sometimes shifts, and it's okay, but it's hard to accept that. Right.
Yes.
It's very hard to accept that because you've had people in your life and suddenly it's like, okay, like there's connection starts to fade, and it's sad. It's a sad
It is
thing.
sad, but it's like it is sad because you do lose people on the way,
Hmm.
which I always believe that people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. But the people that really want to be there, they will come to you
Hmm.
because it's a lot of coming to see you and being in your space for the first little while, at
Hmm.
least the first year, right?
Yep.
And you really see who's there for you, who makes the time to come and see you and the baby. It's really eye-opening because you would think that family members would be the first to be.
Hmm.
And don't get me wrong, we've had a shit ton of family members come from both sides, but quite a few friends have been
Hmm.
really, really great and supportive. And some family members who I thought would have,
Hmm.
and I would say should have, barely come and see our little
Yeah.
guy, barely even ask us how he's doing. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but it really shines light on selfishness
Hmm.
and how upset it's heartbreaking and upsetting, but it really shines on like how selfish people are and how caught up people are in their own lives, and they don't even stop for a second to think about really their actions,
Hmm. Oh,
silent
and
actions.
yeah, which sometimes silence is a lot stronger than any words, right? And to that, I'll say you're totally right. There are people are going to show you who's important. I always say this. The most important parts of your life where you realize who the important people are in your life are birthing, after birth, funerals, and that's it. Because, I mean, your day to day, but it's not the accolades, it's not the successes, it's not who shows up to those, it's who shows up to your life when you are in your hardest moments. And your hardest moments are funerals, when somebody passes in your life, or when you are a brand new mom. Because people that don't show up to those, they just don't fit in your life, if I'm being honest with you. Okay, they served a purpose prior, and then you need to move. Like you said, there are family members that sometimes you're like, what is going on here? Like, what's going on? You should be there. And I am not the type of person to force a family relationship onto my children. I will never force my children to hug a family member, to kiss a family member, because that shit is earned. Like, if my child does not feel comfortable around you, I don't care who you are in terms of blood. I don't believe that blood is thicker than water. I don't. There are some friends of mine who have become more family than some family members. And
Yeah,
that's okay. That's
it
okay.
is
That's
okay.
also that's part of this postpartum stuff. So I'm gonna go into Nico's. Nico's is very similar in the aspect of, like, I went through a bout of crying and emotionally dysregulated, but with him, because I knew what was coming from Veronica, I prepared a lot of stuff. So I did journaling prior to having the baby. I did a lot of like trying to connect myself with my baby when he was inside my body, so that when he would come out of my body, I would have some sort of connection. Because I feel like that was part of my journey where,
Yeah.
like, I just saw my belly growing and I wasn't like focused intentionally on my child. But for Nico, I definitely did that. I did a lot of talk therapy before he came out. I did a lot of reaching out to people and saying, hey, I'm about to have, like, my closest friends. I'm like, I'm about to have another baby, and I don't know what life is going to be like with an 18-month-old and a newborn. I said, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be hella difficult. So if I don't answer the phone and I don't answer the text message, you are more than welcome to just stop by my house. And that was like unintentionally an amazing test that I did. The amount of people that would show up to my house because I like, my phone would blow up with notifications of people messaging me and I just couldn't get to it. So they
Yeah.
would show up with a hot meal or with a coffee or just plainly to be like, hey, we're here. Do you need like some help? Like, do you want us to hang out with you? And I think that really, obviously, the world was different when Nico was born. It was a year and a half after everything, like things were reopened. Everybody was hanging out again. And so with him, I definitely did not feel isolated. I had a lot of people come and really enjoy him, enjoy me, and all of the things postpartum, which was a huge help. I got mastitis with him.
Oh,
Like my boobs broke. This is unfiltered here. My boobs broke, so I'm bleeding. Like I remember one morning waking up, and I remember unraveling him, and everything was red all around here. Like just red. His whole PJ was just red, and I'm like, what happened? Did he strangle himself? I'm now panicking. Like, oh my god, my baby, he's bleeding. Like, where's he bleeding? Where's he?
it
He
was
wasn't
you.
bleeding. It was me. So in the middle of the night, I hadn't realized how much my breasts were bleeding.
Oh,
And
God.
because he had breastfed and he was just like all over the place. Yeah, I bled all over his onesie. And I was
Crazy.
mortified. Yeah, mortified. I was like, "Oh my God, what did I do to him?" Like in the middle of the night. So yeah, it was easier with him in terms of like mentally because I had a lot of support. I did a lot of things
Yep. You were
pre-birth.
prepared.
Yeah, I was prepared. I was definitely much more prepared. I knew kind of what was coming, so I made some action steps to prepare myself for that after. And that is something like journaling and EFT tapping and breath work has carried so much into life now, 5 years after my first baby, that even they do it. So my kids are very well versed in like breath work. I see Veronica tapping sometimes. It's hilarious because she doesn't know what she's doing, but I see her doing it because she's seen me do it. When they see that I journal, they sit down and grab a piece of paper and they scribble on their piece of paper. So it's cool to see that, which is something that I give to you, that your baby's still so little, but practices that you use now carry
They
on to
see it,
them,
for
right?
sure.
So if I had to ask you, Jenny, what would be your main like tip for moms going through postpartum right now?
I'd say talk to your circle of people. Like be very vocal and open and just know that it's okay if you're not feeling okay. There's nothing wrong with you. It's normal. And I always say this too shall pass. It always gets better. Even though in the moment it may feel like it won't get better, just know that it does get better
Hmm.
and that you're not in this space forever.
Love that. I love that.
And for you, Maria, what would be your one takeaway?
I would say, I mean, similar to yours, I would say definitely talk. Don't be afraid to talk. And I know that sometimes that it's a scary thing. I know for me, taking in my experience, the hardest thing for me to do wasn't even going through all of the stuff, even though it was very hard. It was opening up about it because I felt like it was very stigmatized. And so my tip for you would be really lean into who you are and owning the experience that you're going through right now. Put down the phone, stop looking up things. If you're on social media and you are seeing your feed is full of perfect moms and, the picture perfect life, and that's causing you to feel like you're not doing a good enough job, mute those pages.
It's not real.
It's not. It's not real. Most of that is not real. You need to remember that social media is a highlight reel of people's good moments. It's very few that you're going to find that are going to show you the hard. And I'm going to toot my own horn here. I will show you all of that. I am not one to sugarcoat, hence why we started this podcast. The reality is that a lot of what you see on social media is what people want you to see. And people
Totally.
don't want you to see the struggle.
No.
And it's okay to struggle. Audit the things that you're consuming if it's making you feel in a negative way, because that was definitely a
Cleanse.
big thing. Yes, cleanse it. If audit it. If it makes you feel negatively, get rid of it. Like get rid of it because it's not true. It's not
Yeah.
true at all. And you're worthy of being heard.
Absolutely.
So if you guys ever need someone to talk to, our email is open, our social medias are open. We are more than open books. Definitely reach out if you feel uncomfortable talking to a family or friend, and you want a third party that has nothing to do with you and could give you some insight that you're not emotionally connected to. And we are more than happy to do that for you.
We're here.
Absolutely.
All right, Maria, you have a beautiful Sunday afternoon.
Hey, you too. Have a great day, guys.